Hello everyone, it's Jocelyn again. Today we're making the Jewelweed soap, and so I'm gonna let my husband work here and I'll be talking about the different things about what makes Jewelweed soap special. So here we go, and if he has something to interject, he's going to. So what he's doing this time, instead of using the water to kind of cool the lye solution off so it doesn't burn the goat milk, he's poured the lye directly over what's called Jewelweed tea. So I go out to my parents' farm in the woods and we forage for jewelweed, and when I get the jewelweed I bring it home and I will mix some into jars of oil and echinacea and plantain and lavender buds, and that I will use for our jewelweed salve and for our bug bite stick and things like that. And then a bunch of it I will also boil down on the stove in water and then freeze into ice cubes, and that's the jewelweed tea. And we like to use the jewelweed tea in our soap along with goat's milk, along with in the oil mixture for our soap, we use a jewelweed infusion where, like the other jewelweed that I put in oil, I'll put some just jewelweed with the olive oil and jojoba and a little bit of moringa and make an infusion of that. And so that is part of our oil mixture for this. And you can see he is now pouring the jewelweed tea with the lye in it over the goat milk to melt the goat milk. We don't want to scorch the goat milk because it'll just burn and it won't give us any kind of nice color in our soap. So he's also pouring more lye into there to melt that goat milk down. One of the things I wanted to tell you, I didn't tell you in the last video, was that you have to really measure your ingredients well. And lye is not something to play around with. You can't just add, oh, I'm just going to put some lye in here. It's something that we have to specifically measure that out so that it's going to be the correct proportions. That way it can be neutralized. And whenever we take the soap out 24 hours later after it starts to cure, that lye is basically neutralized. But we still let it cure for the 4 to the 6 weeks just to make sure, and also to get a harder bar, because there's a lot of this water from the milk and from the tea and whatever that's going to come out of the bar of soap in that curing time. So the bar will shrink a certain percentage while it's curing, and the longer it cures, the harder the bar. So that's why you also have to make sure that your oils are a good recipe and a good mixture of oils, because as it cures, it can cure so far that your bar could crack if you don't have a good oil recipe, or it just won't set up right if things are wrong. So that's what he's doing. He's mixing the goat milk and the jewelweed tea together. So the jewelweed, what's really special about this jewelweed soap is if you've been exposed to poison ivy, oak, or sumac, even like mango, that urushiol that causes the itchy blisters and hive kind of things on your skins, the jewelweed is nature's natural antidote to that. So if you're out in the wild, you'll notice that jewelweed grows with the poison ivy because it's the natural antidote to it. That's kind of how nature works. If you've got the poison, you've got the antidote nearby. You just have to know what that is. So you could break the stalk of jewelweed, and there's this kind of like not a sap, but a juice that comes out of it, and you can put it directly on your skin and it'll antidote the poison ivy that you're in contact with. It's not a plant that you can eat. It wouldn't be something, you don't make the tea and drink the tea. That'd be a horrible idea because it is poisonous in that respect internally. But on the skin, it's wonderful for antidoting that itchy rash. It can stop the itch, it'll stop the blistering, it'll stop the spread. So one of the great things to do is, if you've been out in the woods and you might have been in contact, come in, wash with the Jewelweed soap, and that will remove the urushiol. So it's really hard to get that urushiol off your skin, but because the Jewelweed has the components in it, it'll take it off. So you can, you know, maybe not even get poison ivy if you've been exposed to it. We also make a Jewelweed salve that's really excellent for if you've gotten the rash, it's itching, it's blistering, it's spreading. If you put the salve on your skin, it'll stop the itching, it'll stop the spread and the blistering. You'll get through the rash in a shorter amount of time than what you would typically. So it's not going to clear it up from your first application because it's established now in your system that you have it, but it will be a whole lot better for you than taking antibiotics or putting steroids on your skin or scratching it off, and then putting, some people do things like they'll scratch it open and then they'll put rubbing alcohol on, or they'll put Clorox on, and that is really a bad idea. I don't ever recommend you do that. So the Jewelweed salve, it's wonderful. You just put it on. You don't have to scratch it open or anything. Just put it on it, and it goes in and it starts the process of antidoting and clearing that up for you. So Jewelweed is also really good for heat rash. If you have heat rash, you can apply the Jewelweed salve to that, and it'll help clear that up. So I want to show you our last bars that we had made. This is what they came out like. Are we going to keep the same design?
Close to it, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to try and
be a little higher because of the additional oils we've added.
Alright, so we've added a couple oils, so we are going to try and get it to be a little bit taller than this, so you get more bang for your buck. Price is staying the same. So now he's poured his Jewelweed tea, goat milk, lime mixture into the oils, and we could use this whisk and just whisk this thing and keep whisking and whisking and whisking, and eventually you'll get it to the point of having a trace, is what they call it. But it's so much faster if you just use the stick blender, so you're not standing here all day whisking, whisking, whisking. So that's why we use a stick blender. But if you had to and you didn't have a stick blender back in the day, they just would have used a whisk or a spoon or a spatula and whip that around there enough. What's up?
It's going to be noisy.
It's going to be noisy. So while he's doing that, I didn't say in the last video what this was, but I'm sure people were wondering, why didn't you point that out? That is water, and it's got kaolin clay in it. So that's going to help us keep the bar more white with that white kaolin clay. It also can give you a little bit of a harder bar. Kaolin clay is a clay. It's good for your skin. It can pass on good benefits of detoxing your skin, but also making it soft and helping out with itchiness and that kind of stuff. So there's your kaolin clay. This is our scent. This is tea tree, lavender, and Litsi essential oils. So the tea tree is great for skin issues. It's one that is recommended for hives if you get hives anyway. So it can take itch out. It can calm inflammation. It's wonderful for that. Lavender, very soothing for the skin. A lot of people use it whenever they have dermatitis of any kind. It's calming for the person as well. Emotionally, and then the Litsi gives it a nice fruitier scent. So it just, some people don't like, you know, lavender and tea tree aren't always the best together scent wise, but that makes it a nice rounded out scent. So then here is calendula. calendula is an anti-inflammatory flower. So we make a calendula salve too, because it helps with the skin to combat things like burns, itching, swelling, cuts, scrapes, redness, inflammatory conditions. So he's going to add the calendula into the main batch of oils there, and it looks nice, but those properties of calendula will impart in the bar as it's cooking and brooding. So that's another thing. So some people, whenever they get poison ivy, they can itch and scratch and everything, and then they can get themselves infected, and you don't want that. So the calendula is a good antiseptic part. So you just saw him adding the raw honey. We always have our raw honey, holistic honey, and it's a great humectant. So there goes the calendula in there, and just whisk that in. It can, if you're using the bar directly on your skin and not using a washcloth, the calendula will also be kind of a exfoliation a little bit for you. So that is rose clay. Rose clay is another good soothing. And then he's mixing in with it the orange peel powder, which is, it's good for soft, smooth skin, and it can reduce, you know, blackheads and stuff like that. And it's good for improving oily skin. So when we put it in with the Jewelweed salve, it's oil that's in those blisters. So this can help with controlling that inflammation. This one here has your lemon peel powder in it and a little bit of yellow mica, just trying to get a little bit of a different color. And as you can see, because the Jewelweed tea is so dark, our milk hasn't burned, but the tea itself is going to make these look darker than what they normally would. So that's why we use our kaolin clay with water in to kind of lighten it up to make it brighter and more creamy for our top, and maybe swirling through. Keep our base a nice color. We'll add a little bit in there. And then these, we're trying to get kind of a pinkish and a little bit of a yellow-orange. The flowers on the Jewelweed plant are orange and yellow. And so we're not going to get those vibrant, pretty colors, but we can at least try to make it look pretty decent. So look how thick that's getting. Oh, are you going to dump those over here so they can see?
I can't.
Yeah, I'll help you. Move this all over so you guys can see the process here. Alright, there it is. So you can see this is getting thick, especially since it has all that calendula in there. It gets pretty doggone thick. Pretty quick. And he added honey to that base also, and like I said, that honey is going to work with the lye to really heat up the whole process. So this is getting really thick. Probably a little thicker than you like, huh?
Yeah, it's about normal.
About normal.
You have to work with it quickly.
So you just heard him say, you got to work with it quickly. When it gets cooking like that, you got to go faster, because all of these are thickening up pretty quickly. I don't have a... What about this one? Let me go get it over there. Running out of whisks. So, trying to get this to look a little bit like the other one, but like I said, we never know if we're going to get the same exact design or not. We're not going to get the same exact design, but we try to get it similar. Keeping it moving. Is there anything else I need to add there, Timmy? Just keep working with it.
That's it.
So yeah, Jewelweed, it's an awesome plant. It is good for bruises and cuts and scrapes as well. So it's all around. It's a good antiseptic soap with the calendula, the lemon peel powder, the orange peel powder, the tea tree, the lavender in there, and the calendula. It's an all-around great bar of soap if you have any kind of a skin condition, especially if it's a skin condition that is itchy and has any kind of red swelling. But it is a bit of a process to put some of these together, because if you watch the first video of the orange vanilla cream bar, that was very, very fluid. And we even had to wait, you know, about 5 minutes to 8 minutes before we could peek the top of it, because it was just a lot looser than this. It depends on what ingredients you add, and as to how fast it's gonna to go on you. Honey's always a factor. When we make the soap, we wear gloves, we wear goggles to protect our eyes, because right now the lye is very active and you don't want to mess with it. And some up in here. Even holding my hand above it, I can feel the heat coming off of the soap. That's why they use it in pretzel making and bagel making. So they'll make the dough, they'll form it together, and then they drop it in a lye bath is what they call it. They put lye in water and cook it a little bit, and then do they put lye on after that at all, or is it just a lye bath? So it's a lye bath. Yeah. So I mean, that lye, when they use it for bagels and pretzels, it's in your food. You're giving it a bath in active lye water that's boiling. So, well, it's not boiling, but it's in there. Cooks the outside and gives it. That's how your bagels and your soft pretzels get that rubbery outside. From that lye. Ooh, that's thick. Kind of looks like oatmeal. That's what makes me think of is oatmeal. So I come up with these different recipes by just doing my research and seeing, you know, I know common issues to this area and to other people around the world, and I know that I am not a big proponent of steroids for various reasons. They're not good for your body. They're not good for your skin or anything. Some people actually have major issues with them. When we were several years ago, we lived in a different area, and my husband thought he wasn't allergic to poison ivy, and he went out to take care of that poison ivy, and it in turn took care of him. And he ended up having to take 3 rounds of antibiotics, and 2 rounds?
Steroids.
Steroids, I mean. Yeah, 3 rounds of steroids. Sorry, said the wrong thing. But anyway, and he gained weight from the steroids, and he was not a happy camper. They were, you know, a lot of people can't sleep when they take steroids, and it wasn't cutting it anyway. And finally, after the 3rd round, it was to the point where he could deal. But you start looking at what can we do other than this that's not going to be dangerous and harmful and wreck our sleep and make us miserable and gain weight and everything else. And as I've gotten into health and wellness over the years, I found out about Jewelweed. And a friend of mine was suffering really, really bad. And I thought, you know, I'll just make her a salve. And that's where it started. And then I found out about all the other stuff that went along with it. And I thought, you know what, we're going to make it good. So that's what I did. And came up with a soap, came up with the salve. And then I kind of ventured into the bug stick, what's going to work. And wouldn't you know, Jewelweed salve works really great for chigger bites. So my brother, who lives down in Virginia, they have issues with chiggers down there. And he had gone to the doctor and nothing was working for these chigger bites. and he got some of our Jewelweed salve, and he couldn't believe it was the only thing that worked to take that itch away and get rid of those bites quickly. So he was a happy camper. But that's, I mean, I think that where there's a will, there's a way to find out what you need. I know that whenever I had gone through some really bad times for my own health and I started getting into natural stuff, my one doctor told me, he said, well, why are you doing all this natural stuff? And I said, because it's working and it's not giving me side effects. He said, well, don't you realize that every single drug has come from some natural source, whether it was a bark, a leaf, a flower, or something like that? And I said, yes, I do. I said, but these don't give me side effects like the stuff you've been making me take. He said, well, that's just because of the chemical part of it. And I said, exactly, which is why I don't want to take that stuff. So, you know, I found out that this stuff really does work. And if you do your due diligence, you find out what works, and as you study it correctly, it'll turn out well for you. You don't have to tap it down. So this is what you guys missed in the last video. I went ahead and peeked those other soaps in the orange vanilla cream, and I think they look really nice, but this is the point that you guys didn't get to see the last time with the peeking of the tops. Laurel Mountain soaps, we always have to have our nice mountain tops on there. But again, these colors look real. There's a nice pink, there's a nice, you know, orangish yellow there with the cream, and I wish it would stay that color, but as it goes through the saponification and curing time, it's going to morph into something a little bit darker. It'll still be nice. I think they still look very beautiful. It's just the colors are going to change a little bit. So thank you for joining us again. And oh yeah, I should tell you about the Jewelweed salve. This is what I was kind of talking to you about before. Now this has the jewelweed, echinacea, plantain, and lavender buds all together in it. So it's also got the oils, and I do use doTERRA oils, lavender, melaleuca, myrrh, and peppermint, and it really does take the itch out of itchy situations, and it takes the inflammation out. It works on bug bites as well as poison ivy, oak, sumac, chicker bites, heat rash. You can try it on any dermatitis you have. It's an excellent thing, especially because I've added the echinacea and plantain. It is just very effective and soothing. So we have that in stock, and feel free to grab it too. But there's our Jewelweed soap. It'll be ready in 4 to 6 weeks, and I'll bring you back for when we cut it so you can see what the design inside looks like and how close we got to this one. I'm not thinking we're gonna get too close to that. I don't know, we'll see. But it'll be beautiful no matter what. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.